Hi, everyone. Welcome to Drag Story Hour. It is Grandparents' Day because we promote literacy and diversity and, just open mind, open heart here at Drag Story Hour. Today, we are celebrating Grandparents' Day. We have a special guest that is going to share a wonderful book. Can we please give the police department to the grandmothers? Thank you for joining us. Yes, let's get into the group. And speaking of the gigs, look, there's songs in here, and we'll get into one of my first questions later. Let's go.
Can we please give the police department to the grandmothers?
Give them the salaries and the pensions and the city vehicles, but make them a fleet vintage Corvettes, Jaguars, and Cadillacs. With white leather interiors, convertibles digging the scene with the gangsta lean. Let the grandma's squad cars be bad. Ooh, it's a family show.
My daughter, who's 9, is always like, "Oh, girl." You would hear the old school jams like Patti LaBelle, Stevie Wonder, Anita Baker, and Al Green. You would hear Sweet Honey in the Rock harmonizing on We Who Believe in Freedom Cannot Rest, bumping out the speakers. And they got the booming systems.
Yes. If you up to mischief, they will pick you up swiftly in their sweet rides and look at you until you catch shame. As a grandparent, I know what that looks like. Or at least I don't know what it looks like, but I give it. She will ask you if you are hungry. And if you say yes, and of course you are, on the dashboard, you will see brown faces like yours, shea buttered and loved up. And there will be no precincts.
Just love temples with spaces to meditate and eat delicious food. Mangoes, blackberries, nectarines, cornbread, peas and rice, fried plantain, fufu yams, greens, okra, pecan pie, salad, and lemonade. Things that make your mouth water and soul arise.
Yes. All the hungry bellies will know warmth. All the children will expect love. The grandmothers will help you with homework, practice yoga with you, and teach you how to make jambalaya and coconut cake from scratch.
When you're sleepy, a grandma will hum and rub your back while you drift off. A song that she used to have the record of when she was your age. She remembers how it felt to be you and be young and not know the world that good. Grandma is a sacred child herself, one who's just circled the sun enough times to enter into the ripeness of her cronehood. She wants your life to be sweeter.
Amen, amen. When you're wilding out because your heart is broke and you don't have what you need, a grandma will take your hand and lead you to her gardens. You will lie down amongst the flowers, her grasses, her roses, her dalilahs, her irises, her lilies, her collards, her kale, her eggplants, blackberries. She wants you to know that you are safe and protected, limitless, sacred, sensual, divine, and free.
The grandmas are the original warriors, wild since birth, comfortable and loving fiercely. They have fought so that you don't have to, not in the same ways, at least.
This is why. So, give the police department to the grandmas. They are fearless, classy, and actualized. Blossomed from love. They wear what they want and say what they please. Believe that.
There won't be noise citations when the grandmas ride through the streets, blasting Erica Badu, Nina Simone, Marvin Gaye, Alice Coltrane, Jimi Hendrix, KRS-One, all that good music. The kids gonna hula hoop to it and sell them lemonade made from heirloom pink lemons and maple syrup. The cars will be solar powered with no carbon footprints. The grandmas designed the technology themselves.
Okay, Grandma.
Listen, these grandmas, I'm gonna tell you.
At night, the grandmas will park the cars in a circle so they all can sit in them with the tops down. You'll look at the stars, you'll talk about astrological signs and what to plant tomorrow based on the moon's mood. They will help you memorize Audre Lorde, James Baldwin quotes. Let's talk about it.
A grandma will always look you in the eye and acknowledge the light in you with no hesitation. She loves you fiercely forever.
The grandmothers see the pain in our bravado, the confusion in our anger, the death behind our coldness. Grandma knows what oppression has done to our souls and is gonna change it one temple at a time.
The grandmothers have no fear.
Have no fear. This book is so divine. So, my first big question is not your inspiration yet, just yet. Was I saw all these songs in here. I wanted to know, do you have a playlist available where I can listen to these songs all together?
Absolutely. I'll send it in the email on Spotify, actually. Grandma's playlist. That's what I call it.
Okay, yes. We're gonna have to include that in the show notes so that people can listen to these songs as they're reading, the book. So they know the feeling of what we're talking about
Ain't
as we're reading
nobody.
through. Yes, yes. You wake up on Sunday morning and you would hear some of these songs, and then you hear the vacuum, or you hear a mop, or you smell cleaning supplies. If you know, you know. That
You
was
know, you
usually
know.
that that usually meant that your mother or your grandmother was up cleaning and cooking breakfast. What inspired this book?
Honestly, so many elders that I've been blessed to know in my life, both in my family, and I was an educator and youth worker for a lot of years and an activist. And I feel like I've met so many elders, grandmothers, specifically, I use the term grandmas. Initially, this was a poem that I didn't know one day would be a children's book. And by the time it became a children's book, I got very protective of wanting to acknowledge the labor that Black femmes and grandma elders have given, but also acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
that similar to how like people can often feel like Black women are gonna save the day, no matter how crazy we let shit get. They gonna come and Harriet Tubman us out of it. So in the book, when I was working with the illustrator, I conveyed like I think anybody can be a grandma. Anybody could acknowledge this kind of care that comes from the ways that our society has actually left a lot of gaps of care and a lot of disenfranchisement, a lot of impoverishment.
Yes.
And it's the grandma and the elders who are like, hey, I'll watch the child, you can come stay at my house while you get on your feet. Here's
Yeah.
extra food. And particularly with this poem, it was right after Michael Brown was murdered, and
Mm.
the murderer, the police officer whose name I don't remember right now, essentially his testimony was like, Michael Brown was so big and terrifying. I was like, he had Hulk-like strength. So the only way he could sort of address this projection was to murder this young man, And
Mm-hmm.
having been a youth worker, I'd seen so many elders show just like limitless care to young people in
Yeah.
the community and seeing them in their humanity when
Yeah.
often a lot of these young people who I worked with in the neighborhoods in Harlem and Minneapolis as well, their constant interaction with cops and being profiled created a lot of trauma and anxiety of walking in their communities. Right. And then you have these elders who are loving and will hold
Mm-hmm.
these kids accountable, like, go pick up that trash and bring it around here, or there's a barbecue happening. Make sure you tell your mom, like these kind of people who hold space in community so effortlessly. So in writing this poem, I definitely was inspired by these folks who hold authority and not through overpowering, but through like love,
Love and
and,
support.
sense of their selves. So
Where does this all start for you?
yeah, I feel like from a young age I've always written and I've always loved poetry and definitely like Maya Angelou and Nikki Giovanni and
Mm.
kind of like all of these Black femme poets that were big in the 80s and 90s. And actually, this book's birthday, its published birthday, is Maya Angelou's birthday and
Oh,
the
wow.
fifth anniversary of Dr. MLK Jr.'s assassination, April 4th.
Oh, whoa.
Aries baby. So I feel like just those intersecting kind of, auspicious components of
Mm.
whatever. So me for like poetry has always been a salve and a balm for me. It's always been a way that yeah, like I just love language. So, like as a kid, teen, definitely wrote a lot of emo poems and
Hmm.
um yeah, I've always like done like I think writing and poetry are always like the foundation of my work, even as a theater artist and puppeteer and all the
Oh,
other
puppeteer. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
that's another discussion for another day.
I know there's so many nerdy things I do.
You wrote this poem in 2015. Tell us how you went from 2015 to now.
Well, what would happen is at any time a Black person would be murdered by police or like, kind of white vigilante, my community would like share the poem on social media. Like it would just go all over. And I'm based in Minneapolis and actually lived
Hmm.
in the neighborhood that George Floyd was murdered in. Like I live five
Oh,
blocks
wow.
where it happened and I grew up in that neighborhood. And that
Uh-huh.
neighborhood is definitely one in transition of gentrification, had traditionally been a Black community and is now transitioning to people with more wealth and more access. And that's been happening for a while. So, anyways, one day I woke up and this thing happened 5 blocks from my house. And I had approached and been interested in making this a kid's book, before. But it was George Floyd's murder and being in community with a lot of activists and organizers and people who were doing stuff around police defunding and rethinking policing. They really were using my poem like, yo, like
Hmm.
let's talk about this. Like, what does it look like to create new sources of care and love and witnessing, and utilizing this concept, this like kind of futuristic or sort of hopeful vision of what defunding the police would be. Because I think whenever people think of defunding the police, they think like, oh, it's going to be mayhem and everything is going to be awful. But a lot of what has happened over the last generations, especially as I've been touring this book, is I'm learning that that we have defunded everything else in community and been funding the police in extreme amounts increasingly
Mm.
here. So we defund the community centers, we defund, the like programs for after school, we defund the programs within schools for arts and skills and whatnot. And then we give more money to police when, we see the sort of outcome of that. I'm really happy with it. Kristen Uroda, who's a brilliant illustrator, really figured out a way to capture
Okay, Kristen.
Kristen. Yeah, Kristen's that good. So yeah, I really love like every time I would see sketches, I would be very emotional. Yeah.
Beautiful. Do you have any uh people that you lean on that are like the folks in this book?
Definitely my mother, Ingrid Richards, who's Trinidadian wild woman and totally like just such a badass. Like I think when as women age, as femmes age, there's this idea like start to devalue. I mean, we devalue, femmes in general in our society, but certainly as they become elders. And I
Mm.
think like I've always had all these, elder femmes where I'm like, oh wow, she just get more wilder and badder the older she gets. And I think my mom, my
Hmm.
aunt Brenda, Alexis Dufault, who's like a mentor of mine, Black queer writer, Shannon Bridgeforth, Lori Carlos. I also acknowledge in my acknowledgments Bill Cotman, who is an ancestor now, but was super instrumental in my career and local photographer, Beverly Cotman, who was his wife, another tremendous artist and caregiver, and just people who are like in community fluidly loving, really being these healed
Hmm.
presence. Because a lot of us sometimes do get to elder age and we don't have the sense of care that we deserve to even show up. Like I think a lot of our elders also need to be
Right.
stood up for and given resources.
Right.
Tahiti Robinson, but these are like elder poets who are Black women, grandmothers.
Yeah.
I even think about voguing and house culture, where
Mm-hmm.
so many of that is like, queer femmes, of all genders who are like, I am the mother. I have to take care of the community,
Mm-hmm.
the chosen family. So I think
Yes, yes, yes,
acknowledging
yes.
and seeing all of the ways that people have showed up in society without resources to love up on each other and to protect and care.
Mm-hmm.
So
What do you say to those that don't have the grandmother in sight? I say in sight because sometimes we don't realize that these people are taking care of us until like maybe after they don't take care of us anymore, or situations present themselves. But what do you say to those people that don't know that they have these folks in their life?
yeah, I think like I acknowledge that not everybody has a positive experience with their grandmas. Some grandmas is racist. Some grandmas got like their own issues and stuff. So like not forcing this like romanticized idea of grandmas onto
Mm-hmm.
elders in their life. But I do think, and this is something that I think the queer community does well, like find the chosen grandmothers or the chosen family, the chosen elders that really show up and give you life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I
Give me
think
life. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I was thinking like give life, like give life. Like the fact that we say that in queer community, like, oh, that's giving me life, like
Yes.
so powerful and real. I also think about for elders in your community, whether they're blood or chosen, to ask them their stories. I think part of the beauty of like touring this
Mm.
book is so many people talked about their grandmothers and not just their grandmothers as elders, but their grandmothers as young women. Like, yeah, my grandmother escaped, some situation in Alabama, moved to Brooklyn and worked hard and bought a brownstone that a lot of us lived in. And because once, these generations pass, we lose those stories. So,
I had grandmothers, but they weren't like as involved as most grandmothers are, but they were positive influences. But I also have elder queer family that I think that are um, very beneficial and very loving toward my journey and helping me figure out life as I go. Thanks, Janata, for sharing your book with us today on Grandparents' Day.
oh my gosh, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for letting me know there's a Grandparents' Day.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank y'all. Have a wonderful day.